The Atlanta Braves and spring training have officially kicked off. Games are being played. Logan, Whaley, and myself are going to talk about it on today's episode of the Chopaholic, brought to you by the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
Well. It's been a minute. Logan. It is good to see you. I'm glad that you're here. And we're talking Braves baseball, and we are talking about actual baseball games, Logan. No more off-season fodder, no more back and forth talk about who's going to be here. Yeah, we'll still have some conversation, but man, how good does it feel to be able to see some clips of Forrest Wall hitting 2 home runs today? We're recording this on Thursday, but just in general, baseball's back, man. And I don't know about you. I am a spring training enthusiast. I'm that kind of guy. Like, I genuinely love the first couple of days of spring training, and I get sad when spring training is over. I'm ready for the season. Don't get me wrong,
Right.
but there's just something about spring training, man, that is just special, unique, especially if you've been to spring training before. It's pretty awesome. So, how you feeling? Baseball's back.
I'm excited. I mean, like you said, I always freak out at the Forrest Wall hitting home run videos because to me that just signifies that baseball is fully back, right? You know, you always get the surprise stories in spring training, the surprise roster additions, the guy that, you know, is not expected to peak until 2 years down the road, but he's peaking now in this spring training and he's going to be the next big thing. Or it's just time for everyone to overreact because Jared Kelenic is 0 for 8 with a couple of strikeouts. And is Alex Anthopoulos the worst GM ever because he made this awful trade? It's fantastic because everyone's ready to react, and I'm right there with them.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, one of the big things we're going to talk about, just some kind of early returns, early reviews of spring training. I will go ahead and suggest, and I'm going to link it down in below, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify. Check out Behind the Braves. It's a series they do. It is phenomenal. It will literally make you feel like you were in Northport, which, look, and I have not been to Northport yet. I try to convince the pregnant wife for us to take a baby moon down there and catch a couple games. And don't get me wrong, she loves spring training baseball almost as much as I do. But no, she couldn't get off work. Something about a job. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Unacceptable, really.
But man, look, early as we kind of start off here, some of the biggest noise, some of the biggest just news and notes, and I got a video I'm going to show. We're going to get interactive on today's show.
Okay.
Spencer Strider and this curveball, Logan. We didn't really get to see it because a lot of the games weren't televised. We saw some clips of it during the live BP, but I will play this for you right here as we take a look. This is Spencer Strider striking out the side, as you see right here. There's the nasty curveball. He's going to come back after this pitch, just dotting a changeup on the outside corner. And he struck out the side here, going back with that curveball. You see just buckling the knees. So let's talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
If he really develops this, and all reports, I read a lot of Justin Toscano, a lot of David O'Brien, great reporters. Also, I love the Braves, like, reporters. It's great. Mark Bowman as well. They do a great job. They say this thing's for real. Like, this is not like he really is going to be able to use this. Fun fact for you. He recorded 93% of his strikeouts last season with a fastball slider combo. If he adds this, look, we're not just talking about the best pitcher on the Braves staff. We're talking about one of the better pitchers in baseball, 2024 National League Cy Young Award candidacy, all these things. Talk to me about what this curveball can do for Spencer Strider and his development and for this Braves rotation.
I'm not saying that I put money down on Spencer Strider winning Cy Young / leading the majors in strikeouts after seeing the curveball videos. But I'm not saying it either. It's unbelievable to me. And, you know, obviously you know that players are going to improve in some way. And I think that's something that fans often think about whenever somebody bursts on the scene and they struggle and they think that that's going to be the story forever. Or, you know, they see someone like Spencer Strider dominate and think, you know what, the dominance has hit a ceiling, and then he comes back and, you know, develops a curveball. Yeah. I mean, it's unreal to think about. And of course, I mean, everyone knows Spencer Strider. I mean, it's the elite fastball and everything works off of the fastball. And it's unreal to think about. Like, I don't even know what to add to this conversation other than I don't know how long he's been working on this, but the fact he's got teammates in that rotation, like Charlie Morton. Charlie Morton's got one of the nastiest curveballs in the game. To have that by his side, like, that's one thing I'm most curious about. When we get Spencer Strider for like media availability, I wonder if that question will be asked. How much influence did Charlie Morton have in the development of his curveball? Because you got to think that's
Man.
that's where I sit with it. I think it's got to be a Morton development with Strider. But pitchers always show different types of things that they use spring training to tinker with. And I think I saw a Fangraphs article. It's like, well, we don't know if Strider's going to add this to his arsenal for the season, which technically true, but it's already nasty. It's already really good. And
Yeah.
saw the pitching ninja overlay. I don't know if you have seen it.
Dude, it's filthy. It's filthy. Yeah.
Really any difference at all. It's so crazy to me. Spencer Strider's just a unicorn. Like, I think we just have to accept it at this point.
Well, and two, I mean, you talk about, inverted break is something that is a term that's really becoming more and more common. Obviously, being down here in Baton Rouge, one thing for me is talking with a lot of the LSU pitchers about that. And, a guy last year that made his spring debut today for Pittsburgh, Paul Skeens, he was a guy that was really, really big on that. And, Paul Skeens and Spencer Strider are very similar in what they throw, two-pitch mix, essentially. One's 6'7". Spencer Strider's not quite 6'7". But
right.
When you talk about like this inverted break, and this kind of getting a little more into the nerdy side of baseball analytics, but man, his numbers are already off the charts. Like that fastball, and essentially people don't understand. Like, I don't even understand everything in inverted break, but guys talk about literally it's like it takes off. Like it's literally inverted. I mean, you're going the opposite way of it breaking down like a breaking ball would.
Yeah.
So if he's doing that, like, we just think about this. Okay, so maybe for the baseball fans at home, like, I don't understand all that. If he's already got a fastball that appears to rise like a softball pitch, he had a changeup. I mean, I wouldn't say a ton of movement. It tails a little bit, but it's just a good kind of, mix in speeds. But now he starts to develop something that's a little more, not necessarily 12-6. It's more of a sweeping action we've seen early, Logan. I genuinely don't know how you hit him. Like, I don't know. And like, I get it. We're not sitting here saying this is, we're all Spencer Strider fans here. We're not sitting here saying that he's going to, have a .63 ERA,
Right.
But I really do think that you have to start to think about, like, as a hitter, this has to be a nightmare. Like, this is a guy that's already hard to hit, and he's just throwing a fastball that literally rises. And now as he introduces different angles, different things for you to look at as a hitter, I don't want to face him.
Yeah. You almost wonder if this curveball is kind of for lefties. That's kind of, and of course I know he'll throw it against righties too, but it seemed like you got more of the Strider full arsenal against lefties last year than it was against righties, which I suppose makes sense because when you have a limited pitch mix, that's it's going to be really, really hard facing the opposite hand.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the fastball, right? I mean, Strider's fastball to me is the best in baseball. If not, it's top 2, top 3. You mentioned the rise. I think he had the best rising action, or like the most rise out of his fastball among anyone in major leagues. I'm pretty sure that's correct. Feel free to fact check me on that. But so everything works off of his fastball, right? And because I think by itself, like you look at Strider's slider, and it's like, Strider's slider is good, but it's not like the best slider you've ever seen. Same with the changeup, and now with this curveball, it's like, okay, the curveball's nasty, but it's not the best you've ever seen. But I think, again, it goes back to what Strider is really good at, and that's establishing the fastball and having elite command and elite velocity of it. And adding another pitch to that repertoire or something else to consider, that's really, really dangerous and really nasty.
I want to correct myself. I was saying inverted. It's induced vertical break. That's what the terminology they're using nowadays. But you mentioned lefties. Let's play this video one more time because the first batter he strikes out, I believe he goes to the back foot of a left-handed batter. As you watch right here, I mean, Logan, that's dirty. Like that's not fair. I mean, right. I don't know, man. So we talk about that for Spencer Strider. That's massive development. You're going to hear this hype train, really, really get on it. I will also go back to the mentality that he has as a competitor is what's going to allow for these things to not just be a fad, not just to be a pitching ninja tweet. For me at least. How do you feel on that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm curious to see how often he will throw it
Mm.
when it gets to the regular season. I wonder if it's going to be like the changeup where you don't see it as often, or if it's going to be kind of like an in between. He won't throw it as often as the slider, but he throws it a little bit more often than the changeup. So that's one thing I am curious about because again, you see pitchers working on stuff all the time in spring training that doesn't necessarily translate over to the regular season.
Yeah. 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 New Braves analyst CJ Natowski did tweet out today. I don't know if you read that tweet. Really, really good. He said, obviously, he struck out 281 guys. He used the fastball 59% of the time, slider 34%. So, look, if you start to kind of look at the law of averages of what he's using, and by the way, this today, the strikeouts we just showed you, it was curveball, changeup, curveball that he went
Right.
strike 3 on all those guys. So, you start to get in the territory of 4 pitches. Okay, fastball, curveball, slider, change. Your casual fan is going to say, well, he doesn't have a sinker. He doesn't have a 2-seam runs. But that fastball's not flat. Like, we know that. It's not flat. He's got so much movement, and man, I think he's going to be pretty fun to watch. Like, I don't know. Any final thoughts as we wrap that segment up on
Yeah.
Mr. Strider?
Well, I look at again last year, and I think he was very unlucky in a lot of ways. Like just looking at his Fangraphs page or anything, like if anyone's super into stats or looking at the advanced analytics, Spencer Strider is just one of the weirdest pitchers last year because obviously on the surface the ERA and the FIP went up, but every single metric showed that he was still dominant and nasty.
Yeah.
But, I'm curious to see if that bounces back his way this year. And if so, how much does that regress toward the mean, so to speak? And the curveball, right? Yeah. I mean, adding a curveball to that, how much would that influence that too? So you would imagine that the hard hit percentage would go down if he adds that to the mix.
Which obviously bodes well for him because it did at times feel like when he was getting hit, one or the other pitch, let's say the slider's not working, and so now they know, hey, he's not hit with a slider today. We can sit fastball, and I don't care how good you are, I don't care how good that fastball is. These guys, especially in that Phillies lineup, unfortunately, they're good enough to hit those pitches, man. But no, I agree with you. And I like what you said too, and I want to add that in there of the pitch mix because being versatile for him, I think it's the difference between being a great pitcher to being one of the best, if not the best.
Right.
Like we're already talking about a guy that's, I would say very comfortably top 15, top 10 pitchers in baseball. Now you're getting territory where you could say top 7, top 6, if this thing continues to progress, like it should, honestly. So Spencer Strider, keep it rolling, man. And, I don't want to talk about the jerseys, but we don't need to do that.
Every highlight.
It's really bad. But hey, I do want to talk about this. I forgot to put it up there. Spencer Strider's curveball, beautiful. What about Ken Giles? Ken Giles. I want to show you this right here.
Former Phil Ken Giles is out on the mound. Swing and a miss. 4th strikeout today for Braves pitching. Swing and a miss. Back-to-back strikeouts for Giles.
This hitter's not picking up rotation here. He must be hiding it well.
Swing and a miss. He just struck out the side.
Now, that was a pretty interesting. We didn't even cover our faces up in that. But, man, your thoughts. Ken Giles. This is a guy we were just talking about before we started recording, Logan. Was signed on February the 2nd. This is a guy who is an all-star level closer. And Atlanta takes a late flyer on him. And look, we're not going to overreact. We got to see him, continue to go. But obviously for Braves fans, when they saw the 3 guys he just struck out, the struggles that Atlanta's had against Philadelphia the past 2 years in the playoffs, man, that's tempting. It's tempting. Your thoughts on maybe what can Ken Giles show? And is there room for him in this bullpen?
Yeah, it's real interesting to me. And I think part of the reason why he was a late flyer, and again, I mean, the more arms, the merrier, right? In spring training, you're always looking for somebody who could potentially stick long term, and it's already a minor league deal, right? And so that's the expectation for him. But it is interesting in the sense of you saw Braves management this offseason really emphasize velocity over this offseason. So they want guys that throw hard in the bullpen. Giles used to be that. He isn't that anymore. I believe he had Tommy John in 2020, and I think that was the last we saw him as a regular MLB reliever. He last pitched in 2022, but he only pitched, I think, 5 innings for the Mariners. But it's interesting, though, because it seems like he's changed up exactly how he approaches batters, because he used to be that fireballer that would, just blow everyone away. Now it seems
challenge everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Now it seems like he's more into what is it? It's probably sinker slider. Does that
It's
seem
not.
right?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, he whether it's a 2-seamer or a sinker, I mean, it's tail. I mean, it's not. Here's 101. Try and hit it anymore.
Right.
It's not really that anymore.
Yeah. So, if there's room for him in the bullpen, I don't know. I mean, that's the scary part, I would imagine, this bullpen. Because, I mean, look at the righties you have. I mean, obviously you got Ronaldo Lopez, who, could be the 5th starter, maybe not.
Yeah.
Either way, he's going to be on the Braves roster in either the rotation or the bullpen to start the season. We don't know. But he's there. You have Pierce Johnson. You've got Joe Jimenez. You've got, oh gosh, I've already drawn a blank on him. Who am I thinking of, Bryce? Who am I thinking of?
I'll look it up while you keep rolling them off.
No Jesse Chavez, by the way.
And I'm sad. I'm sad about
that.
But
in July, though, you will be able to say Jesse Chavez in the Braves bullpen.
Raisel Iglesias?
Yeah, Raisel Iglesias.
Okay,
I don't know why.
The closer, Logan. Come on.
Yeah. I don't even know why I couldn't even think of the dang closer. Which ought to show you my thoughts on Raisel Iglesias. He's just fine.
He's just fine.
Yeah, he's not elite. He's not terrible. He's fine, right? But I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of righties in that bullpen, so it would be hard to say who he would replace. Is my thing.
Yeah, and look,
but depth, right?
Yeah, I mean, you need the depth. Now, don't get me wrong. The question is with Ken Giles is, and we're saying dominance loosely here. I mean, just obviously that first outing. If Giles impresses and Atlanta says we don't have a spot, I don't think he's accepting an assignment in Gwinnett.
True.
He's going to go somewhere because someone is going to take a flyer on a guy that's going to throw mid to high 90s from the right side and puts together a good spring, whether or not he has seemingly fallen off or the injuries and everything like that. Like the Dodgers, you look at transaction page, they signed him in June of last year and tried to get him, rolling last season to be a part of that bullpen. So it's going to depend on a lot of things, Logan, with Ken Giles. I think it's just encouraging to see a guy that was really good, a young and up and comer that was going to, people felt like was going to be one of the best. And he was. I mean, he was one of the better late inning guys in baseball. And, man, that outing he had against Philly the other day, it's encouraging. It's encouraging. Another encouraging thing that goes along with this is the return of Tyler Matzik. Split squad action today. And this could determine a lot of things, too. Because the question is going to be, is Matzik ready to go on opening day? Like, I think that's the question. So today he allowed a hit and a walk in a scoreless inning, on Monday against the Orioles. And, sat between apparently Mark Bowman said he sat between 91, 95 in Monday's outing. Logan, with Matzik, look, we all know what he can be. And there's no doubt about it. I mean, he is a guy with closer stuff that you could throw in any high leverage situation, and he can probably be your best pitcher in the bullpen at any given moment. But is he going to be that in early April? And so the question we just talked about with Ken Giles is there a spot for Giles if they want to continue to ramp Matzik up at his own pace? Because the whole idea of this team is you and they know it. You need to be your best in September, October, and
Right.
You don't want to rush a guy in April and now he's out from May to June, and you're trying to restart that whole process. We've seen that happen, especially with the starting pitching last year.
Right. I don't know if he'll be on the opening day roster, just based on the reporting that's there.
Yeah.
It really doesn't seem like he'll start the year in Atlanta. Maybe he'll make a few appearances in AAA and then he'll be ready. But I think the original reporting was that he was, high 80s, low 90s, and then Bowman's like, yeah, well, actually, 91 to 95. I'm like, how do you go from
which is quite a jump we're talking
89? Like, yeah, it was 89, or it could have also been 95. It really depends on who you ask, I guess. It's craziness, but yeah, I don't know, but I think the one thing that is important to look at, though, is the amount of lefties the Braves acquired. And again, bullpen was one of the main things that they attacked this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
But, the Aaron Bummer trade I look at, I have no idea how Ray Kerr is doing in spring trading. That's the one name I feel like I've not seen, but he was another guy that the Braves traded for. Obviously, Dylan Lee is there. Obviously, AJ Minter, of course, like he's the lefty that's, locked and loaded in that bullpen. But
is AJ Minter, and not to get spiritual or political, is AJ Minter omnipresent? Because it just kind of feels like he's just constantly been in Atlanta. Like, I didn't realize this is his 7th year. Like, that's how long he has been in Atlanta. So that's a question. Maybe that's
he
a
is
topic.
Infinite. He is all.
He's just constantly there. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'll say this. I just like the options. It feels deep. They know it's going to be a strength. And we'll see. I don't know. I mean, because it's like you said, it's going to depend on what happens. Ronaldo Lopez is going to be key. If no one claims that 5th spot and they feel more comfortable with Ronaldo there to start the season, maybe Ken Giles has a spot.
I just thought of something. Do you think it's possible, speaking of AJ Minter, do you think it's possible that not Lopez, Iglesias, see, I can't even think of his name even when
you just don't like Iglesias. I hope we never get him on the pod because you're not going to talk to him.
Do you think it's right? Well, I don't even know where this came from. Like, I think he's fine. That's just my thing. He's fine. But do you think it's possible Iglesias could get replaced as closer at any point this season? Because I mean, Mentor to me always had that potential.
He's always flirted with it, man.
Right.
He's flirted. Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I mean, I think it's just going to depend because, like, when you start to look at that, you have the guys of the capability, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The capability of what you have back there, okay? So as we kind of take a look at the bullpen options, Joe Jimenez has the ability to close a baseball game.
Agreed.
Ken Giles has the ability to close a baseball game. Tyler Matzik has the ability to close a baseball game. AJ Minter has the ability to close a baseball game. Rocio Iglesias has the ability to close a baseball game. I'm going to keep going down this list here, okay?
Jesse Chavez has the ability to
rest
close
in
out.
Peace. I believe that Pierce Johnson could close out a baseball game if he needed to. I don't know, man. It's going to be fun. Like, it's really, really going to be fun to watch because, they could really do some. I mean, shoot, Jackson Stevens is on the roster again for us, We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I think it's positionless bullpen management. And if you can find a way to find those key combinations like you did in 2021, man, they were setting it up beautifully in 2021. Now, look, guys have to pitch well. That obviously hasn't happened. I mean, I know you've been a big stickler of Brian Snitker and the bullpen management. I agree with you. I think I also send the candidate, like, at the end of the day, those guys have to perform. And it's really easy to look in hindsight at decisions and be like, well, it didn't work well. If the guy pitches well, no one's saying anything. So we'll see, man. But gosh, that bullpen has a chance to be super nasty. Super nasty.
I looked up Iglesias's contract, by the way. He has one more year left after this year, $16 million for each of those years. Also, this is age 34 season. Bryce Iglesias.
I don't think Atlanta signs him back. Like, I think
I don't think so either. Yeah.
You want to know another bullpen option that I think folks should watch out for? I don't think he's going to be the 5th starter. And so I think that he could develop or maybe get a better opportunity. Huascar Ynoa. Just think about it. Now, obviously, pseudo pinch hitter. He could also do that too. Remember before he broke his hand in Milwaukee, the guy was hitting dingers.
He was, yeah.
But you kind of think about it, like, he's got the stuff. And we'll see.
What about Charlie Culberson, right? Obligatory Charlie Culberson mention here.
I loved, dude. Charlie, I don't know if you read the article. I don't know if you subscribe to The Athletic.
I do.
the article on Charlie Culberson they did. I mean, first off, David O'Brien has been cranking out some fantastic features throughout spring training. I mean, it has been. I already thought, well, of David O'Brien. This has been a different level. Would love to have him on the podcast to just to talk. I mean, it'd be a ton of fun. So, I will say this: it's cool to see what Culberson's doing, and it's cool to see that he's serious about it, and the Braves are taking it seriously. Like, I feel like a lot of times you're like, oh yeah, okay. Alex Anthopoulos does not strike me as a guy that would have said, yes, come back. Like, he's not going to play around with people's feelings about like that.
Right. The odds aren't necessarily in his favor either, right? Like, I can only think of 2 guys that have tried to make that transition. One was Rick Ankiel, right? Rick Ankiel tried to make that transition. Christian Bethancourt, too.
Christian Bethancourt, and then he went back to catcher and is playing in the majors.
And he's good. Question mark. He's good. I don't understand.
Here's a throwback. I remember going to a Gwinnett Braves game with one of my good buddies, and shout out Sam Beatty. I know he watches the pod and listens. And we got Christian Bethancourt jerseys, Gwinnett Braves little shirt jerseys. And man, I had that thing for a long time. So yeah, dude, look, Charlie Culberson's a great guy. Awesome dude. I'm going to be rooting for him. I mean, I imagine he's going to go to AAA and live out this dream that he has as a pitcher. And props to him because the guy has serious stuff. Like, this isn't just someone back there throwing. Like, he actually can pitch. Whether or not it's going to be good enough to play at the major league level consistently, I don't know. But it's a cool story nonetheless.
Yeah, Christian Bethancourt is probably the weirdest MLB player in history. By the way, I'm looking at his baseball reference page right now. 5-year gap in between 2017 and 2022 when he was not in the majors. 2022 sets a career high in plate appearances. It makes no sense. He was the starter for Tampa, wasn't he? Or no, wait. He was he the starter? He was.
He started in Oakland. This is nuts. He started in Oakland. Had a 298 OBP. He slugged 436 in 2022, by the way.
That's ridiculous. He's a Marlin now?
Who's not a Marlin at this point? Like, are you really?
I didn't even catch this.
No one did. Did anyone realize Tim Anderson's got signed to the Marlins like a week ago?
No. But here's the kicker. He was purchased by the Marlins from the Guardians. He had a 1-month stint in Cleveland.
How are you purchased? What does that mean?
I have no idea.
Is that just a trade for cash considerations? Yes. Okay.
Yes. The way that Baseball Reference has that's purchased by the Miami Marlins.
Well, Baseball Reference could get some hot water for that. But we will not get into that topic of conversation. Let's round it out here as just talking, getting back into the flow of the podcast thing. Like we said, make sure obviously that you're subscribed to the channel. We're going to be doing a lot more of these during the season. We're not necessarily sure the schedule yet, but I'm excited to really kind of dive into some Atlanta Braves conversation. Logan as well. I know he is too. Offensively, look, the bats are always going to be kind of slow to start the spring. Pitching is going to be ahead of hitting. A couple early standouts for me. Michael Harris has apparently looked really, really good. That's going to be huge, I think, in terms of Atlanta taking the next step if he has a massive year. And then, obviously, we joked about it earlier, Forrest Wall. But any other kind of standouts maybe or guys that you're kind of wanting to see a little more of offense? Because it kind of feels like everything's set, like it's pretty much set.
Right.
I mean, everyone wants to watch Acuna. I get that. But any other thoughts as we round it out? No,
Harris was the guy that I was thinking of as well. And similar to totally agreed totally agreed with you on Harris. Matt Olson is going to be so interesting this year too, because obviously,
how do you do any better than last year?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like literally, so I'm working on the write-up right now, like previewing the infield. So I was diving deep into Matt Olson numbers from last night or from last year. Dude, I knew he was good, obviously, right? Like led
the back of the baseball card speaks for itself. Yeah,
of course. But I didn't know he was top 5 good, like on the same page with Ohtani and Freddie and like that tier of good.
Yeah.
It didn't surprise me, right? Because obviously he hit 50 plus homers.
Yeah.
But everyone pegs Olsen as this just power hitter, right? He just hits for power and nothing else. And then you look deeper into it, and since June, like if you took his numbers from June on, that's an MVP candidate. Like dead serious. Like he hit over 300 since June. Led the majors in homers since June. I think he had 37 since June. Ridiculous. And he finished fourth. Like I left my Matt Olson research extremely upset that he finished fourth in MVP voting. He could have finished a lot.
So
higher.
it was what? It was Acuna.
It was Acuna.
Freddie.
Yeah. Freddie was ahead of him. Mookie was second. I believe. Yeah. Which, everyone was making the Mookie for MVP argument.
I thought people were just.
They've lost.
I don't know what drug of choice. They were smoking it when they put that. And look, I love Mookie Betts. Hate that he's a Dodger, but I love, like, as a baseball fan, I love watching Mookie Betts, hands down. Like, he's a ton of fun to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's good stuff. Hey, if you want to check out some of the writing that Logan's been doing and going to continue to do, head over to crowdedbooth.com. Completely free for you to just sign up and support. If you want to support more than that, you're more than welcome to. And you can, look, if you don't want to see me write about other stuff and you just want to get Logan's content, you can subscribe directly to the Chopaholic. You can say, miss me with that Bryce guy. I just want to read exactly what Logan's talking about on the Braves. And, man, you can certainly do that. And, man, it's going to be a ton of fun. Logan, we might have to plan. I mean, I'm having a kid this summer, so I don't know how it's going to work, but we might have to plan maybe a Braves game together and get out there. And it's going to be a ton of fun. I know I've gotten some interest from some folks, as well. And then last, but certainly not least, please, guys, help Logan out. Join our fantasy baseball league. We're going to drop the link down below. You can join our Discord for some conversation. It gets testy. If you're not a Georgia Tech fan, just don't even look in the Georgia Tech forum side of things. Hop on over to the Braves, talk other sports. But bottom line, it's not just for Georgia Tech fans. It's for everybody and anybody that wants to come in and talk sports with us. Logan gets lonely in there sometimes, so give him a reason to get that the phone screen time or the laptop screen time even more elevated. So make sure, though, you join that fantasy baseball league. I believe, Logan, you said the draft is March 18th is what we're shooting for, right?
That's what we're shooting for, yeah. Going to be a live auction draft. So this is, fun fact, this is going to be my first auction draft that I've done. But everybody I've talked to that's played fantasy baseball, even the Athletic, right? Like I read a lot of the Athletic when it comes to fantasy baseball. They're all in on some auction stuff, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, it's good to switch things up. Plus, too, I think people can live like if it were fantasy football, I'd be a little bit more upset that it wasn't a snake draft. But
yeah,
baseball, I feel like it's different.
No, I'm with you there. I like it. Shopaholic Podcast, all things Braves here in the Crowded Booth. Like we said, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, set up those notifications so you know that when we post the latest content. And look, I'll tell you this too. We go live talking college footballs on Mondays, but maybe, just maybe, certain points in the season, we might have, live trade deadline reaction show, maybe a live opening day reaction show, talking Braves baseball. So we're going to really ramp up this coverage as we get closer and closer, man. And no better time. Spring training is amazing. If you have never been to spring training, I cannot encourage you enough to go. It is, I'll just say this as we run it out. It's, if you want to, and I've already told my wife this, because we went together a spring break, our senior year of college or junior year of college, one of those two, down with some friends. One of my buddies lives close by. And so we went to a couple games. I went as a kid a couple times. I will take my daughter, or having a little girl, because it is it's where people can fall in love with baseball. The intimacy of the game, the intimacy of being able to, meet the players, get a couple autographs, a ton of fun. It really is. It's a special time. So we hope that you'll be a part of that as well as we continue to talk in spring training baseball. We'll let you know when we record again. But you can know if you just subscribe to the channel, like we said, hit notifications. We appreciate you if you're listening on Spotify and Apple Podcast as well. And we'll catch you next time here on the Chopaholic Podcast, brought to you here on the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.